These days, it's hard to find good news. But I've been tracking the number of people that are in the county jail since the 1st of April by getting data from the Sheriff's Office website. And then I was also able to get a whole set of information on the previous 4 years of the number of people that are in jail from the Deputy Sheriff. And it really shows a positive trend. If you look on the sheets of paper that I gave you and the area that's highlighted with the bright pink, that back in 2012, the average number of people in jail was 249.4. Similarly, in 2013, 242.1. In 2014, it dropped quite a bit to an average of 217.1. And that might have been partly because of that very cold winter where we had temperatures down minus 15 during a couple of the months in the winter. But nevertheless, it was significantly down. For the first 10 months of 2015, it was up just a little bit to 228.1. Now, I said I started keeping track of it on April 1st, and for the month of April, the average number of people actually in the jail, not including the electronic home monitoring, was 180.5, and it was never more than 194. In May, the average number was 170.4 and was never more than 181. The first week of this month, the average is 175.3 with a range of 170 to 180. So there is evidence of a trend downward, and there's a lot of things that might be contributing to this. Some of it would have to do with what law enforcement is doing. Some of it is changes in policies and procedures at the county jail and with the judiciary. And those of you who were here back when ILPP made the report might remember that Kalmanoff included some comments about the fact that even though the population of the county might be increasing, you shouldn't assume that that definitely meant that the number of people in jail was going to increase, but that there were many changes and policies and procedures that could have an impact on the number of people in jail. And I know that this is really important to the Facilities Committee because of the considerations you're dealing with regarding which buildings need ADA improvements, what other changes might be needed at the county jail, and how much all of this is going to cost. Other processes going on in the community are the plans to have better treatment available for people with mental health and substance abuse problems, hopefully in the community in general, as well as for those who are who make it to the jail or are taken to jail, and specifically also for those who are re-entering our communities from jail or prison. And there was a nice article, a long article in the paper that talked about that this Sunday. So as you move forward to consider what kind of funding is needed for facilities, I hope that you'll take this into account, and also hope that you will consider the possibility of diverting some more of the public safety tax to some of the preventive and alternative programs that help to heal the community and prevent further problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. We have no other slips for public participation. And at this point, I will close public participation. The next item would be communications. Are there any communications that need to be heard from the committee members?
Gary? Yeah, I'd just like to thank Dana for the tour of Brookings that you and Jack and I went on before the meeting today. Thanks, Dana.
It's a good point. Appreciate that. Any other communications? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A while back, this committee approved a wireless access project for the courthouse. Just happy to say that that project's been completed over the Memorial Day weekend. Tim Breen and Brian Allison from our IT team spent that time installing 62 access points throughout the facility. And so that network is ready for use. We have to do some work on some of the client computers, but otherwise the network's available for people to use.
That's good news. Any other comments, Rick?
That concludes my comments.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are fortunate enough to have our chair, county chairman. Are there any comments? Okay, that's unusual, but any questions? All right, thank you. Unless there are other communications, I would suggest we close communications and go to the next item. Item 7 is the approval of contract for ITB 2016-004 Brookins Pod 200 and Pod 300 boiler replacement project. And I'd ask Dana to fill us in on the project and the bid process before we take any action. Thank you.
Attached to your agenda information are a couple of pieces of information relative to this project. First was a bid tabulation. We had 5 bidders for the project. We initially contacted 7 local and 1 close-by vendor to get them interested in the project. We had 5 bidders. The composite gives you kind of a range. All 5 bids submitted the appropriate information and were acceptable, certainly. Pricing is listed there. Had 2 within, the low bid. There was one just right behind it, about $510 difference. So I look at that as a very positive in terms of the information that was provided to each of the vendors. We had a couple that were up there a little higher, but that's the nature of the beast. Reliable is the low bidder. They recently have finished a project for us over at the nursing home and did an excellent job there. We've contacted Reliable after the bids were opened last Thursday to ensure that they felt comfortable with the price. They indeed do feel comfortable with the price. And also attached to this information, you should have an email memo from GHR, our engineering firm, who's shepherding us through this bid process and will help with oversight while the project goes on, as well as a recommendation from me that we accept Reliable Mechanical's bid and award them the contract.
Do we have any questions of Dana concerning the bid process? Okay, we have a responsible bid that is awardable by our standards. And at this point in time, I would ask for a motion to award the bid for the boilers for Pod 200 and 300 to Reliable Mechanical in the amount of $161,990.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Okay. Any questions? All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. At this point, I'd ask Dana to fill us in on to give his director's report to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. First, a quick update on our Brookins Pod 200 roof replacement. Our contractor, Langlos Roofing, Inc., out of Kankakee, was awarded the job Friday, May 13th. They assembled all the materials, lifted them up onto the roof. They began the project on Monday, May 16th. They began the project 7 a.m. in the morning for the first 3 days of the project. Worked till 4 o'clock. They would rip off enough section to be able to adequately replace it by the end of that day, should bad weather come up that evening. And they did not work when there was a heavy forecast for, a high percentage forecast for rain. They thought initially it'd be a 10 to 12 day project. We did have 5 rain dates, so it did extend it a little bit, but in actuality, they were right on. They finished on the morning of the 11th day, which was this past Monday, the 6th, and removed all materials. They did an excellent job. It was a very noisy, particularly if your office was right underneath the cutting of 2 layers of floor. You saw your ceiling tiles dance a little bit. You heard a lot of vibration. It was noisy. We did try to alert everyone in advance that that was probably going to be the case. Some people probably didn't believe us, but they certainly did when they came in the morning. We did create an office space for those offices impacted in meeting room number 4, put a computer and a phone line in there, so that if somebody was dramatically impacted and needed a little quieter space, they had a place to work. After the 3rd day, we went to Langlos, and they agreed to come in a little bit earlier, starting at 6 a.m. And finishing at 3. So the tear-off then was complete by 8 a.m., so most offices really were minimized in terms of the dramatic impact from cutting and ripping of that old roof off of the building. We inspected it Monday afternoon with our architect, IGW, and found that they did do an excellent job. Roof's been cleaned, and so we're very happy with it. We have received the first pay application. If you remember, the price on the bid price on it was $172,107. The first pay application was for $136,927. We will be getting a credit, which is always positive, back. That's for roof decking material that they did not have to use. We built into the bid a small amount, about $4,000 worth of roof decking replacement that the contractors needed to provide cost for, should we have to replace more than that within the bid doc. But we did not have to replace any roofing deck at all. So we will get a change order that will credit us back to $4,000, and their next pay application will be respectful of that. IGW's price was $19,800, not to exceed. So if you add that to the reduced price overall from our contractor for the roofing, we're looking at about $188,000 and some change for the entire project, which is well under what we initially budgeted from the capital asset. We originally budgeted, I believe, about $230,000 for this project, so we'll be in good shape. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll roll through. Precast concrete wall panel repair project. We thought this was over and done with, but we have a piece that's come back. Since this project really spanned 2 fiscal years, we started it last year. We stopped it in early November because they had about 15% to go at County Highway to conclude the project. It spanned into this fiscal year. County Highway is paying for their portion, which is the joint repair. It's also the crack repair on their building. They could not afford the component that was bid out for painting of the exterior. If you drive by the building, you'll see that the cracks are very noticeable that have been repaired. And similar to the satellite jail, which we could afford to paint, Jeff Blue could not last year fit it into his budget. But by spanning 2 fiscal years, he's able to come back and paint over the facility this year. We asked the contractor if he would hold to the bid price, which was, again, bid out last year. It's approximately $77,000. And he agreed to do so. So we're in the process right now of trying to determine the paint color. And Jeff and other members of his staff will be looking and determining the paint color. So at that point in time, we'll get the paint selected. They'll start painting. I would hope sometime this month. It shouldn't take more than a couple weeks to paint the exterior of the building. So That's why this is on here, just to update folks to, it's come back and not quite done yet. Thank you.
Oh, I'm
Question?
sorry. Mr. Quisenberry.
It's $77,000. For painting? To paint the exterior. Yeah, it was bid out. They ranged dramatically, but. That was the low bid. Well, the 77,000, I can't say for sure was a low bid, but the low bid was comprehensive of all the alternates within the bid document. So they were the low bid. The next update is just to kind of bring you up to date on ADA projects. There's a document that I laid out on your table. It starts with proposed asphalt and concrete work for ADA compliance. We've identified with our partner, Bailey Edwards and Burns Clancy, a number of exterior sidewalks, asphalt parking lots, walkways that might be in asphalt that did not meet slope or grade for ADA. Basically, it's 2% or it's 1 inch of slope for every 12 inches. Excuse me, yeah, 12 inches. So we are in the process of working with both of these companies to put together bid documentation for 6 projects. The 6 projects cover Brookins, Courthouse, Elias, Juvenile Detention Center, Metcad, and the nursing home. And they all, each of these areas range in a little bit different things. Brookins Administration is really the main lot out on Washington. We have a tremendous slope where handicap who come in and park at our main entrance to the building, it's about 5%. So we need to do some dramatic work to those parking spaces and the asphalt drive to the sidewalk going north into the building. The courthouse, we've got an issue where our handicap spaces are in our parking lot on the east side, excuse me, that the slope and the cross slope exceed by about 1.5 to almost 2% in some areas. So we've got to do some work in the parking lot. We've come up with our latest idea, which is represented in some of the documents, if you can see it and understand it. But moving the current handicap accessible parking spaces to the north end of the lot. This would be a dramatic savings, actually. That area is under 2%. We'd have to put in a new sidewalk to the City of Urbana's sidewalk out front. And we're presenting this back to the Department of Justice in a memo that's going out tomorrow from Bailey Edwards, but it would be a significant savings. That was estimated originally with our first concept at about $70,000. This would be significantly less than that, at least 50% or more. Elias, we've got work that needs to be done. The sidewalk from their parking lot and handicap accessible lots on the north side of their building does not meet the current slope, so we have to put in an accessible sidewalk that takes them up to the covered entryway. So it'll be a new sidewalk that'll be in place there that will have well under a 2% slope and cross slope. Juvenile detention facility is just reworking a little bit of concrete and some asphalt at the 2 handicap spaces in front of their building. Metcad is basically the same. We have to work on that cross slope from the handicap spaces on the north end of their building to the front. And then nursing home is actually not parking, we're okay, but it's the employee entrance sidewalk from the parking lot on the north side of the nursing home to the back door of the nursing home. Has to be replaced in a number of areas. We have been talking about, as of today, even the potential of mud jacking up the sidewalk in some areas. We'll have further discussion with the engineer on that probably tomorrow. Problem that I've seen and others have seen with mudjacking is that it can greatly change. It could be level, but in a 2 or 3 year period, could be out of level again. So sometimes you're better off replacing it entirely and putting it in correctly versus a temporary fix that's, you know, a little bit less than the permanent fix. So these 6 items will be put together. Our goal is to get this work done before winter closes down asphalt companies here in town and concrete companies. To really meet that schedule, you'll see by the first document, the proposed schedule, since we may not have a July meeting, we would like to take the bid permission to the county board meeting on June 23rd. Providing the county board approves the bid document, send that out on the 24th. And then we would have bid openings Thursday, July 28th. It would come back to the, present to the facility committee August 2nd, to the county board for final approval on August 18th. That gives us some ability then for the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks to get our work done before weather makes it difficult for asphalt and concrete work here in the Midwest. Any questions?
All right. Since the bid documents aren't ready to approve this evening, and we're not ready to, as a result, not ready to authorize Dana to advertise for bids. And since time is of the essence, I suggest we send this issue to the full board for approval and authorization during its, an authorization for Dana to send this out to bid during the June 23rd meeting. I wonder if a motion wouldn't be appropriate so that we go on record that we want this done.
It's not on the agenda. I don't think you can do that. I think we can informally do that, but you can't vote on something that hasn't been on the agenda, and I don't see why we need to anyway, so.
All right, that's a good,
Suspend rules at the meeting next week and take it directly to the board.
okay. So we're all informed as what, I just want to be sure that we get that to the full board on the 23rd. Okay, all right, that's taken care of. Any other questions on that? Dana?
I meant to tell you, also out on your desk, when we talked about the roofing project, Pod 200 was just done, there's a document that's been put together. One of the reasons I think this company in particular does a great job is they document each day what transpires, keep it in a document. They were emailing daily, you know, here's what we've done, here's what's been completed, give you an overall percentage. But the documentation and the workmanship quality and it all, they're a terrific group to work with. But you can see some of the photos of the roof.
Yeah, I find that documentation very impressive, and it really speaks to the quality of this company.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? If not, then I would like to move on to item 9, other business. And sometime this afternoon, I think you maybe all received a copy of a white paper that County Administrator had prepared for us to look at. We do have some time right now if we want to take it to discuss the white paper briefly. And I'd like to, if we could, do this in the next no more than 20 minutes. There's a lot of good ideas in here, and it's part of the process that we're trying to work through. And if you've all had a chance to read that, would be glad to hear some comments at this time. Mr. Quisenberry?
Could you repeat, Mr. Maxwell, when I should have received this email?
This afternoon.
Sorry, I was at work this afternoon. I was presenting at a conference at the I Hotel. And so, no, I haven't read it, and I'm not prepared to discuss it. We're supposed to have things that we're supposed to talk about 2 days before the meeting, 48 hours. I mean, I looked at the agenda online, and there, under other business, I didn't see any bullet points.
That's correct. Just, if we're not prepared to discuss it this evening, that's fine too.
I just don't understand how you can expect for an email to go out the afternoon before a meeting and have board members come prepared to talk about it. If you had reached out to us and called us or had made clear that there was urgency here, there's a chance, but I can tell you that in this particular day, it wouldn't have happened.
I understand, and that's my mistake. All right, any other comments along those lines? I haven't read it either. Okay. All right. I think it is important that we start looking at this. We hopefully will have it at time, wanted to have it out in time for the meeting tomorrow evening, the joint meeting. And quite frankly, I wanted to have this to you. I probably should have indicated to Rick to send it out on Monday. But I wanted you to have this before we went to that meeting tomorrow evening. At least you'd be aware of it.
As a follow-up, I will also say that I understand that joint committee has work to do, and I have no concern with the joint committee addressing topics like that before they bring things back to this committee. So if you want to talk about it tomorrow, don't interpret my comments about my readiness to talk about it tonight as a barrier to you doing what you guys think you need to do tomorrow night. Because I'm not on that committee. If those folks are prepared to talk about it, I don't want to get in the way of your work.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Rick?
Yeah, I'm sorry that we didn't have it out sooner. We had got it on Monday for review before it went out, but I didn't get it out until today, so that's my apologies on that.
And I'll take part of the heat because I did ask Rick to get it out this afternoon, hoping that you'd have it available and that certainly would have the entire committee at least be aware of this paper before tomorrow evening, before tomorrow evening's general meeting. And I appreciate your comments, Mr. Quisenberry. Mr. Rosales.
I did look over it, and I thought they were excellent ideas, but I'll wait in for the full committee discussion. But I did receive my packet today at noon, and I picked up my packet from home at 5, even though I had accessed it online. But the hard copy, I didn't get it until today. I know it was mailed on the 3rd, but I guess it might have been at the Central Post Office on a Saturday, and it didn't get distributed to the postman on Monday, so that it came in today's mail. And I'm thinking, like, where's the packet? Where's the packet? So, but I know that you could access it online if I need to, so.
Mr. Anderson.
Just briefly, I did receive the email. However, I didn't see it until I was leaving to come to the meeting. And I did print it, and then I read it 10 minutes before the meeting, as quickly as I could to get the gist. But I did want to echo what was said there, that there are some fantastic ideas, some innovative ideas, creative ideas in that document that I think I'm looking forward to as a board member pursuing and looking for the best options for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any other comments? Mr. Rosales.
When is the final report of the subcommittee on facilities and finance going to come with their report to this committee? Do you know that?
I can't answer that question. Ms. Feature.
That committee is in place until the end of November, so that would be the last moment. The goal was, if in fact that committee decided that there were importance of putting a referendum or referenda on the November ballot, that would come before everybody no later than August, which is really pushing it for lateness for the November ballot. There's only been one meeting, and the second meeting will be tomorrow night, and I do hope those who have time to come in, join in the conversation. There's a matrix that we'll be working with that is sort of a summary of everything that I've heard on possibilities to discuss related to financials, so that we can see how we can get through some of these projects. And then on the other axis are the major projects that we have been talking about.
Thank you. Other questions? If not, then I'd like to move on to the chair's report. And we have listed here that there'll be no July meeting. Traditionally, we've not had committee meetings in July, and the board meetings actually acts as a committee of the whole, as well as a full board in July. I would like to ask for a motion to cancel the meeting.
You have a question?
Yes, Mr. Quisenberry.
I had my hand up to make a motion to cancel the July 5th meeting and conduct any necessary business at the full board meeting in July.
That's great. Second? Mr. Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Then the next regular scheduled committee meeting would be Tuesday, August the 2nd. That concludes my chair's report. I would like item 11, designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. We have one item, and that would be the approval of the contract for the Brookins Pod 200-300 boiler. That would be ITB number 2016-004. At this, yes, Mr. Quisenberry.
I'd like to move we adjourn.
I would thank you for that. Second? Although we don't need one, a second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Rosales seconded. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.